We started EcoVillage at Ithaca back in 1991 with the concept of creating a demonstration community that would show how people could live more lightly on the planet and do so in a way that also creates a strong sense of community. So now, 23 years later, we have 3 neighborhoods, 2 that are built and 1 that's under construction. And when we're finished with the construction of our 3rd co-housing neighborhood, we'll have about 225 people living here. At this EcoVillage, we are using something called co-housing as a model for our community-oriented housing. And co-housing is a form of housing that started in Denmark in the late 60s, and it's now become popular in the US. We currently have about 225 co-housing communities around the country. And in co-housing, it's a balance between individual households. Each family has their own house, they own it, they can do whatever they want inside their house. But then it's in the site is very densely clustered housing, and there are pedestrian streets, so it's safe for the children to run around and play. There's a very strong interest in doing community things together, so we have several evening meals a week together that are cooked by our neighbors and a dishwashing crew from the neighbors. So it's a nice way of both having privacy on the one hand in your own home, but then anytime you go out your door, there are your neighbors and friends, and over time it becomes like an extended family. I really like living this way.
Tree is the 3rd neighborhood at EcoVillage, and with each additional neighborhood we've tried to push the envelope on building energy efficiency a little bit further. And in this case, we're striving for the highest building standard in the world, which is the Passive House standard from Germany. But this cooperative, the 3rd neighborhood cooperative, will be integrated with the first 2.
With our 3rd neighborhood, we're completing the village in EcoVillage, and we are striving for 3 things. Our goals for the 3rd neighborhood have been affordability, accessibility, and sustainability. With each of these goals, we've had major challenges, and we've met them partially, I would say not fully, but we are, as Jared said, moving things in the direction of pushing the envelope. Now, with this latest neighborhood in Tree, we are trying out the passive house methods of construction, and that takes a tremendous amount of work to get houses really airtight and to make sure that the energy recovery ventilators are installed right and that the air sealing is done well. And we're pleased with the people that we've been working with so far.
We've tried to source as many materials as we could locally because we believe in supporting the local economy, but there weren't any American window manufacturers who would meet the standard, the Passive House standard, and so we had to source our windows from Europe, which doesn't exactly go along with the local sourcing of materials, but we wanted to aim for a much higher standard. So Intus was one of the few that was even had distributorships in the United States, and they have been keenly interested in helping us achieve the Passive House standards that we're building towards.
We first became involved with Tree in EcoVillage back in 2010. We are very good colleagues of the developer. He hires us a lot to do LEED and Energy Star certification for him. We have a very good ongoing relationship with the developer. And this particular community was also interested in doing Passive House, and so he didn't know that we did, but we had just gotten certified. So it was really good timing that this organization came to us and wanted Passive House added on to our typical services. We are very happy with the results of EcoVillage. The occupants that I've talked to, and we've been up there numerous times to talk to them about how the houses are performing, and they all say they feel very comfortable. Their heating bills are low. They're very pleased with the development, so we definitely have achieved our goals.
I found out about the tree project as it was developing several years before construction began, and then most directly through my father, who is my business partner. We worked together in construction management. My experience with the tree project will have an impact on my business and the way I think about my business. For me, the unique aspects of tree are exciting, and it really piques my interest in getting involved with projects that have unique pieces to them. There's been so many successes, and my goals for tree have definitely been met. I would say even surpassed in a lot of cases, but yes, definitely my goals have been met.
I was a resident in the second neighborhood at EcoVillage, and when those were built in 2002, they were some of the most energy efficient buildings in the area. Now, 10 years later, we have the opportunity to build a third neighborhood, and this time to take it to the next level, to incorporate the Passive House standard. And so I was just very eager to participate in this opportunity. We're well versed in all forms of insulation, and we're also very much philosophically aligned with the goal of creating buildings that use very little energy. So we thought we are the perfect contractor for this project, and this is just the kind of project that we want to be involved in. So one of the things we learned in this process is that we can build buildings much tighter than we thought was possible. We can take a group of people that have never before built to the Passive House standard, and through a process of learning, we can achieve that standard, not just once off in a custom house, but over and over again. So we can start to bring this type of building to scale. It's a pretty steep learning curve, but it's also a pretty short one. And over the course of the several passive houses that we built, we felt like we really got the process down. In order to achieve the ambitious performance goals of the Passive House standard, you need all the components of the building to perform well, and that includes the windows. Triple pane windows like Intis windows reduce heat loss dramatically compared to even modern Energy Star windows. And that does a couple things. One is that it reduces the total amount of energy that you need to heat the building. It also makes the building more comfortable to be in. You don't get these contrasts in temperature standing in the middle of the room versus standing close to the windows.
I've been truly amazed at how these houses hold the heat in, even the coldest months, which we've been having. They're really warm when you walk in the door. And people seem to be very happy in their homes.
We chose to live in EcoVillage for a couple different reasons. When we first came up here a couple years back, it seemed like the perfect environment for our kids. I mean, that they can go outside the house. We don't have to watch after them, which was very different from our experience living overseas. Mainly for the kids. For me, the important thing was to live in a community that was really trying to practice sustainability, and the fact that we were going to be moving into a passive house also really intrigued me.
The unique thing to me about passive homes is that you just feel like you're sort of got this bubble around you, like sort of a nurturing bubble, in a way that the air is consistent throughout the house. You don't hear anything outside, even though it's a very quiet place, obviously. You just feel sort of contained.
Like my skin does not get dry in this house. The humidity is controlled here, so it doesn't get too dry or too humid here, which is really nice. So the whole dry hand thing, I didn't really experience that with that this winter, just because the house is so good at controlling the humidity levels. It's incredibly warm here. We use very little energy. There was one day earlier in January, back in January, where it was so cold the kids stayed home from school, and yet it was sunny out, we didn't have the heat on, and it was warm in the house. I mean, it's quite amazing. So that fact alone is great. I mean, one nice thing about passive houses is you have large windows, so it's always light in here. Even on, you know, dark days, you get nice lighting in here as well. On a super cold day, after I've been outside, I know how cold it is. I'll come inside and, for example, put my hand on the window, and the window is you know, it's the temperature of the air inside, and that's very unusual because I'm used to houses where, you know, you touch the window and the window is frigid, you know, and usually the house is a little bit frigid too.
I just love the fact that, you know, my husband comes home and he's like, great, another day of free electricity.
Last month when we got our electricity bill, and it was $12 for the month of February and part of March. And it was, I mean, we've had a really hard winter here. My brother has a very similar sized house down in Westchester, New York. And I asked him last week what was their energy bill for the 3 months of winter, December, January, February, and they estimated it was around $1,000, and ours was under $200. So yeah, I think it's great living in this house.
We choose to live in the EcoVillage. The decision was gradual. It was a transition when we were becoming more environmentally conscious as a family, and we decided to make a change in our lives. We realized how valuable it is to have these thick walls and great windows and bulletproof doors, pretty much, that the cold get into. And when we turn the heat off at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I know that in a good, you know, even with some overcast, our house will warm up to 72, 70 degrees by 11 o'clock in the morning, and only I have to turn the heat back on before I go to bed.
What is unique about the passive house homes is that they are tight and they are very comfortable. In January, it was minus 10 degrees here in Ithaca. Wind was blowing, snow was blowing. Our house was tight and warm. Not just tight and warm, but it wasn't dry. And that is because the walls are heavily insulated, and we have an energy system that circulates the air 6 times every hour, capturing heat before it goes outside, but bringing in fresh air. And we've got very high ecology windows. They seem to be very solidly made. They're triple paned, so they don't let heat escape. I like the fact that they can open from the top and from the side, so that I can have air circulation from the outside when it's raining or when it is not. And because they open so wide, I get a lot of breeze up here when we want breeze.
Living in a passive house could not have been a better choice. It's something that we've always wanted as soon as we learned about the technology and when we saw the plans and what was going to be created. Now that living here for about 6 months or so, it's the best decision that we could have made.
I feel like I made the right decision moving to EcoVillage. I knew I was going to be living in a very sustainable household. I knew I was going to be living in community, but for me, the idea of community was abstract. Now in 6 months, it's taken on a life of its own, what it really means to live in community.
Yeah, moving to EcoVillage, I definitely think we made the right choice. I mean, we took a big chance. We came here from overseas, both without jobs. But now that I've got my job, we're sort of settled and much more comfortable here. The kids love it. They really enjoy it here. So yeah, I think in the long run, we've made the right choice coming to Ithaca and specifically coming here to EcoVillage.